So there we go. We're official. Um, so the only other thing for housekeeping, if you could stay muted, please. And then please be active in the chat. We'll keep our conversation going in the chat. And if you would like to have your video on, you're welcome to. It's always nice to kind of see everyone's face. But of course, that's not mandatory. And again, welcome everyone. We're glad you're here. This is our first time ever in our organization's 48-year history that we have done our annual membership meeting virtually. So this is kind of a big moment for us. Historically, we did the annual membership meeting as a part of our annual conference. But what we've heard, and you'll hear this throughout the presentation, a lot of what we've done over the last year is really try to be mindful of what we heard from our members and our stakeholders. And for many folks, it's difficult to get to an in-person meeting during the week. So we are trying this so that we can be the most accessible as possible for the majority of our members. So thank you for being on this journey with us and being patient with us as we try something for the very first time. And with that, I would like to turn it over to our board president, Ennis Davis.
Thank you, Melissa, and good afternoon to everyone who has joined us today. So, on behalf of the Board of Trustees and the staff of the Florida Trust for Historic Preservation, it is my pleasure to welcome you to our 2026 annual meeting. I want to begin simply by saying thank you. Thank you for taking the time to join us. And more importantly, just thank you for being a part of Florida Trust. As Melissa has mentioned, this is our first virtual annual meeting for our full membership. And while we may be joining one another from communities across the state, we are connected by something very important, which is a shared belief that Florida's history and its places that tell our stories are worth preserving. So today is an opportunity to reflect on where we have been over the past year, celebrate what we have accomplished together, conduct the business of our organization, and look ahead to where we are going next. And there's certainly a lot to talk about. Over the course of our meeting, you're going to hear about some of the ways we've been working to strengthen preservation across our state, from being better advocates to education for our growing membership, our new programs, our partnerships, and opportunities to connect with our state's preservation community. We will also recognize some of the people who have made this work possible: our members, our board members, our donors, our sponsors, our partners, our volunteers, and staff. In this meeting, we will also include a moment of remembrance. This year, our Florida Trust family experienced the unexpected loss of our program manager and friend, Larry Crombie. And so later in the program, we will take some time together to honor Larry, his service, and the impact that he made on this organization. And through the accomplishments and challenges of the past year, one thing has remained clear to me, and it is that the Florida Trust is strongest when we all work together. So our mission is to promote the preservation and inclusive sharing of Florida's diverse architectural, historical, and archaeological heritage. And fulfilling that mission requires all of us, people and communities throughout the state of Florida who care deeply about the places and stories that make this state such a special place. So today is not only an annual meeting, it is also an opportunity to celebrate the statewide community and recommit ourselves to the work ahead. So thank you again for joining us, and welcome to the 2026 Florida Trust Historic Preservation Annual Meeting. And with that said, I would like to begin by recognizing a very special group of individuals whose leadership has helped shape the Florida Trust over the years, and that is our trustees emeritus. This distinction recognizes individuals who have served the Florida Trust Board of Trustees as officers and whose extraordinary leadership, service, and contributions have helped strengthen and shape the organization that we have today. Board terms may end, the impact of dedicated leadership does not. And our trustees emeritus represent an important part of the Florida Trust's institutional history and serve as a reminder that the strength of this organization has been built over generations by people who are willing to give their time, their expertise, passion, and leadership to the cause for historic preservation. So, to each of our trustee emeritus, we thank you for your service, your continued support, and for helping build the strong foundation for the Florida Trust and the preservation movement across our state. We are we are deeply grateful to have you as a part of our Florida Trust family. So, over the last few years, we have engaged with our members and those we serve to build a broad understanding of preservation and what it means to you. We have found a reason for preservation has shifted as we have spoke to different audiences, but all of the reasons matter and all of the stories matter. And here are a few that we have heard during our conversations over the last years or so. All of these are quotes from actual interviews, and they show a broad approach to preservation, one that we have been willing and working to support. So, at the beginning of our Board of Trustees meetings, we traditionally take time for what we call a mission moment. It is an opportunity to recognize an individual, an organization, community, or effort somewhere in Florida that exemplifies the values and mission of the Florida Trust. And so for our annual meeting today, we want to share this tradition with all of you. It is now my pleasure to turn the program over to my fellow board member, Laura Bessinger, who has a story she would like to share. So Laura, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Ennis, and thank you everyone for being here today. And when I was thinking about a mission moment for today, I couldn't pick any one place. You know, it's just the Florida has been on my heart and what we're experiencing in the need for preservation. So I just really wanted to share more about why it matters. And I think that would resonate with so many of you, no matter where you are across the state today. And every historic site in Florida holds witness for us, right? To the hands that built it, the families who filled it with life, and all the struggles and triumphs that shaped who we are today. And just like the photographs on the screen, they can show us a place. A blank lot could hold anything at all. But the fact that what we're looking at in those photographs is a standing structure or a preserved site, those places, the bones there hold memories for us, right? It teaches us in a way that nothing else really can, because we can walk through it. We can touch it. We can imagine the people who were there, and we can stand where they actually stood. And these places carry that full and diverse story of all of Florida, and not one version of our past, but all of them. Architecture that shaped our skylines, and the archaeology that grounds us in that deeper time, and the communities who fought to build something lasting for us all. So when we preserve these places, as nostalgic as I am myself, we're not really looking backward out of nostalgia. We're building forward. We're giving the next generation to come a place to belong and to root themselves in these stories and to be inspired by them. And so that sense of place, once it's lost, it just simply can't be recreated again. All we can do now is work to protect it, which is why this work matters. It's so urgent right now in every corner of our state. So the people who came before us mattered, and the places they left behind to us matter. And today, all of you, by being here, by caring, and by giving to this mission, are the reason that these stories and those places get to live on. So that's my mission moment and sharing with you today. And thank you again for all of your support.
Thank you, Laura. And so before we move on, I just want to add a few thoughts of my own around mission moments and, why we preserve. And really, I just want to recognize and express my support for preservationists, planners, local governments, and advocates all across the state who are working very hard to protect and strengthen Section 106 of our National Historic Preservation Act, a process that has helped build our state responsible while considering and protecting historic places that define our Florida experience. And also just want to acknowledge for those who are working to fix Senate Bill 180 to be able to restore the ability of local governments to make routine planning decisions unrelated to hurricane recovery, as well as those who continue to promote the full funding of our state's preservation grant programs. So these efforts, in my mind, reflect what is the core mission of the Florida Trust, which is to connect, advocate, educate, and be stewards. And so I just want to thank everyone across the state for lending their voice and expertise and time to this important work. So before we turn our attention to the accomplishments of the Florida Trust over the past year, I do want to take a few moments to remember someone who was very important part of making sure that our work was possible. So in June, the Florida Trust family experienced an unexpected and heartbreaking loss with the passing of our program manager, Larry Crombie. For many of you, Larry was the person behind the scenes who helped keep a lot of the work going. He supported our programs. He worked with board members and helped bring our annual conference together, as well as countless other details, both large and small, that are necessary to make an organization like ours successful. But Larry was much more than a staff member. He was our colleague, he was our partner, and our friend. For me personally, Larry's passing has been very difficult. As board president, I had the opportunity to work closely with Larry on a consistent basis. We communicated regularly. We worked through challenges together. We planned together. We shared a commitment to moving the Florida Trust forward. In fact, I actually worked and had dialogue with Larry the very day that he passed. So it's very difficult to put into words what it means to lose someone so unexpectedly, someone who was simply there doing the work alongside you and then suddenly is not. There are still moments where I find myself thinking about something or some of the conversations that we shared. So his absence is deeply felt and is dearly missed. But I also want to think that this is important that we remember Larry through the impact that he made while he was with us. Organizations like the Florida Trust are ultimately built by people, people who give their time, their talents, their energy, and themselves and make in something that they believe. Larry certainly did that for the Florida Trust. His fingerprints are on so much of what we have accomplished, and his contribution to this organization will remain a part of our story. So today, as the Florida Trust family, we remember Larry with great gratitude. We honor his service. We remember him as a friend and a colleague, and we extend our continued thoughts to everyone who knew and loved him. So at this time, I would like to ask everyone to join me in observing about 15 seconds of silence in memory of Larry Crombie. Thank you. And perhaps one of the most fitting ways we can honor Larry is to continue the work that he cared about and helped make possible. So over the past year, even through loss and transition, the Florida Trust has continued to move forward, strengthen its impact, and advance historic preservation throughout our state. And to share a few things that the Trust has achieved, it is now my pleasure to turn the program over to Melissa.
Thank you, Ennis. Thank you for those beautiful remarks and really wonderful honoring of a life that meant a lot to us. So thank you for sharing that. For what we're doing today in our annual meeting, it's a little tricky because we do our annual meetings well after the year is over. So we are talking about 2025 and this annual meeting. So I'm going to take a little bit of time to talk about what we were excited about and what we did last year in 2025. And then we'll take a minute and we'll look forward a little bit. I mean, the year's over halfway done, but we'll look forward to 2026 and we'll think through some of the things that we're doing to continue our growth into that year. So just want to take a minute and it's a little tricky, the timing of all this, but that's the way that we have always sort of done our annual meetings. So I am Melissa Wiley. I'm the CEO and president of the Florida Trust for Historic Preservation. And looking back on 2025, these were some of the things that we were excited about and we are proud of in the work that we've done. So one is being an advocacy leader at the state and federal level. In his remarks, Ennis mentioned some of the key things that we are working on in our advocacy strategy work. It was a challenging year on a lot of levels, both at the state level and the national level. But we continued our work to build relationships and advocate for preservation and to advocate for preservation legislation and funding, both in Tallahassee and in Washington, D.C. So every year we do a visit to Tallahassee during session, and you can see the picture on the right is some of our team during that. At the time, it was the largest group of folks that we had both met with from the legislative side and also the largest group of attendees that we brought with us to do that work. So we were very proud of the connections we're continuing to build in Tallahassee. On the left side, we're meeting with Congressman Steube in DC, and we are the statewide coordinator for the Preservation Advocacy Day in Washington, D.C. that people from around the country do every year. So we were proud to continue that work. And as we know, 2025 was a very difficult and tricky and challenging year for federal funding for historic preservation. So we continued that work when we were meeting with the lawmakers, both or particularly around the Historic Preservation Fund in 2025. So that was one area that we are proud of the work that we did. We were nationwide partners for the National Trust for Historic Preservation and supported their advocacy work, the National Council for Public History, the National Alliance of Preservation Commissions, and Preservation Action, just to name a few of the folks that we partner with. We were also excited about connecting with more people throughout Florida. We had finished up in 2025 a pretty extensive listening campaign where we were seeking to hear from many of our stakeholders from around the state and what they wanted to talk about, what was important to them, what they wanted from our organization. So we're really, really proud to continue that work into 2025. Part of that, we were excited to co-host an event with the National Trust for Historic Preservation, recognizing Cedar Key as one of the nation's 11 most endangered historic places. We led an event there. We led the media coverage. We were a big part of the communications process that went into focusing national attention on Cedar Key and how it can be representative of that sort of old Florida that is continuing to be lost to not only development, but impact from rising waters, increasing and more severe storms. All of those things we fought to connect people with in 2025. And that was our focus for Preservation Month in 2025, was our sort of old Florida connection. So we were excited about that. We were also excited to continue growing the 11 to Save program and the 11 to Save grant fund that Ennis mentioned. It was our fourth year providing grants to tangibly do the work of historic preservation for the places that the people of Florida have told us were most endangered. And this year we funded the highest number in 2025 of 11 to Save grants that we had ever. We provided 5 different fund grants that year for the locations that you can see there. So that was a huge area of growth for us in 2025. We're very proud of that. We also work to create new programs and bring them to new people. One of those is our cemetery, nature journaling and a historic cemetery program. We were able to do that, I think, 4 different times in 2025, and it really connected people with these historic resources, got them into the space, got them thinking different about the space, and helped us to build some new, really important connections for people who maybe in the past didn't know they were preservationists. they know now. And we've gotten very positive response on this program, and we were very excited to bring that in 2025. We were also excited about our educational travel program and our experiences. We went to Cuba in 2025, so last year, and we were among the last group that was able to go to Cuba and experience that. And we also connected with a new travel partner, Project Pour More, for the year. So all those things were sort of things that we were doing that were outward-facing pieces of our work. We also really utilized our listening campaign to hear from our members and to really work throughout the year to connect with those members and to strengthen the program based on what they said they needed to hear from us and what they wanted from us. And to go into a little more detail about that, I'd love to introduce our development director, Laura Glenn, to just share a few more words.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Melissa. Excited to talk about membership and what we're doing, what we did. In 2025, we turned our attention to engaging with members in meaningful ways. Early in the year, we initiated our electronic membership card, which is available for every member to upload to their virtual wallet. An important aspect of this electronic card is the Preservation Passport Historic Sites and Museums listing. Each place offers discounts available only to Florida Trust members. We continue to expand that list of Florida's historic gyms and museums that are open to the public across the state. With the help of the Regional Council, which is our boots on the ground in each of our 8 regions that divvy up the state, we are compiling regional lists of potential participants. Staff will be reaching out to recruit more sites to add to the Preservation Passport soon. So look for those additions in the coming months. Additionally, we are promoting the Preservation Passport more through our communications. It's important to remind our people of this valuable membership benefit. We continue our focus on positive changes with a survey recently issued to gauge how our membership is interacting with the electronic card. We are making improvements based on your feedback, and thank you for that. As it's 5 times more efficient to retain existing members than to court new ones, our lapsed member campaigns have focused on just that. In mid-2025, a listening campaign through phone calls connected with those who had not renewed their membership to find out why. Based on what we learned, we've developed better messaging through our database system, which we update on an annual basis. Beginning this September 1, a push to recruit lapsed members commences with the Welcome Back campaign, consisting of a postcard mailing, emails, and social media aimed at lapsed members from 3 to 5 years. We've had good success with our relationship coordinator, Danielle Humphrey, making personal emails and phone calls to those lapsed between the 6 months to 2 years range, which has greatly benefited our membership numbers. Each year, we host a membership drive in the summer. In 2025, the results were excellent. We had 23 joins and renewals. The 2026 campaign just concluded, and it brought in 20 folks meeting that goal and netting us an increase of 7% in revenue year over year, which is certainly a positive thing. We want our new members to become recurring members. These folks now receive a new member packet, letting them know that we value their investment in our mission. And our newest approach is to surprise and delight those committing to our cause. Look in your mailbox after your renewal. In the coming months, Danielle and I are developing a robust stewardship program to stay engaged with you, our membership. Thank you for believing in the work the Florida Trust does. Thanks.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you so much for that update. And I would like to share with you from all of us on the board what a wonderful job that you were doing and how appreciative we are of your leadership, This has been really, each year that you've been with us, we've kind of grown in our program. And I really respect that you are focusing on the listening to our members to continue to grow. The work that she's going to do through the rest of this year and into next year, around strengthening the Preservation Passport program and helping people to engage more with their preservation membership card digitally, which is a bit of a transition for us. We're a 48-year-old organization. So the work that she's doing to lead us into this great future for our members and help them connect is very exciting. So thank you, Laura, for all that you do. As she mentioned, we are going to be kicking off a lapsed member campaign. So if you maybe potentially think you might be a lapsed member, you can email Laura or Natalie here at the office. Yeah, we've got that in the chat already, I see. And we can find out if you're a member and get you renewed real quick. And also, if you are just now considering being a member, it's a great time. And we would love to have you be a new member as well. So we'll put that in the chat as well. So really exciting stuff that we are doing through our membership program. And with that, we're now going to switch gears to what we're excited for in 2026. So Ines asked at the beginning of our conversation today, why preserve? Why do we preserve? And I'm sure that we all have lots of personal reasons that we do. We probably have personal reasons as well as broad philosophical reasons about why preservation is important. It is the greenest building is the building that's already built. I'm sure we all know that from the preservation perspective, but we all have our own personal reasons as well. And for me, a piece of allowing people to connect themselves to these broader human stories, not only the past, but also the future, and how we are all a part of that story. That is very empowering for me. And I'm grateful that you all allow me to have the opportunity to do that work. It's something that I find to be profoundly important, and that you allow me to do that. I'm very grateful for that. So thank you. So in 2026, we're going to take all of our passion for all of the reasons why we preserve, and we're going to focus that on continuing to be an advocacy leader, both at the state and federal level. Again, as you know, again, this year, 2026, was also a challenging year in sort of some of the same ways that it was challenging in 2025, but also some fun new ways that it was challenging in 2026. And I think that we found in this year more than ever those relationships that we had worked to build in the past and in 2025. They were really vitally important. And those partnerships that we built with other organizations were also vitally important because we can speak louder when we speak together. So when we are responding to threats to Section 106, like Ines mentioned earlier, it is really helpful if we are all sort of in the preservation community rowing in the same boat in the same direction. So partnering with national organizations and other statewide and local organizations, all to say the same thing and ask it of the same people. So those were some really important things that we did this year. Obviously, we're in August, so we've already done our Advocacy Day in Tallahassee, and we also did our Advocacy Day in DC. We're also helping to support the Advocacy Day that the National Trust will have as part of their newly revamped conference that they are doing in October. We're helping to support those meetings and getting those set up so we continue to have conversations throughout the year with lawmakers in Tallahassee and in DC as well. We had challenges in 2026 at the state level, for sure. We did not, again, receive funding for special category grants through the Division of Historical Resources, which was very challenging for preservation projects around the state. We did secure funding for the small matching grants and the African American Cemeteries grants. So we were heartened that there are funds that are available for projects throughout the state. But in 2027, we will continue to work for those initiatives, as well as the ones that Ines mentioned during his remarks, the restoring the ability of local governments to manage their own history, the Section 106 challenges, full grant funding, historic preservation grant funding, and we will continue to do the work that we always do to be good stewards and help to educate lawmakers around what historic preservation is, and also working to one day get a statewide historic tax credit for Florida as well. So it's one of our big things for 2026. We also are, as Ennis mentioned, working on our long-term health for the organization. We are working on short-term and long-term strategies to assure we can continue to do this work into the future. This includes researching new programs and new partners and new giving opportunities and new donors. And we are already thinking ahead for our 50th anniversary, which will be in 2028. So it'll be here before we know it for sure. We also are excited in 2026 to take what we learn and provide new solutions for communities throughout Florida. So we continued with our nature journaling program. We continued with our free educational lunch and learn programs that we do at least once a month. And we listen to what people would like to learn more from, so we can be responsive to providing that free education to people throughout the state. We also are working on getting out our Florida's Historic Preservation Toolkit. We are working on some grants that would allow for there to be workshops throughout the state where we can bring people and communities the information they need to do preservation in their communities. And we're always thinking through how we can better deliver our programs to our constituents. Part of that work was in the launching of a new educational event for us this year, our Preserve Florida Conference. This was a huge undertaking for us and a transition that we did based on what we heard in our listening campaigns for what better meets your needs. We worked really hard to keep the cost of this educational event down. We shortened the number of days for the event. And we heard what you said in terms of what was important to you to learn about. And we helped to build the program and the sessions around what you needed, again, for your work in your community to make preservation happen. So we launched that in 2026. We did our first Preserve Florida conference in St. Pete. Again, it did happen already. So even though we're supposed to talk about 2026 in review in 2027, I did want to take a moment to say teaser Preserve Florida went really well. We were very excited about the event. We had more people than we thought show up. We had more sponsors than we had hoped for. It was a really great opportunity to engage in preservation education for folks throughout the state. And so we're very excited and went well. And we'll talk more about that, I guess, next year. We're also excited to continue our educational travel program. We heard what you guys said in terms of places that you would like to go and explore. So we will be going to New Orleans for a holiday heritage tour in December this year. And then next year, we're looking ahead to a really lovely trip to Sicily in 2027. So we are excited to help connect people to the places they are excited to explore and learn from. So those are just a quick overview of some of the things that we were excited about in 2026. And I know that's a lot of information to kind of digest at one time. So I will say that all of this content will be in our annual report, which will be a part of the next issue of the Florida Preservationist, our magazine. So you can kind of dive in a little deeper and do a little more exploring around all this content when that comes out in the next few weeks. So we know that you're a part of this conversation because you care about history and historic places. So probably a natural question that follows is how you can get involved. Of course, membership is a wonderful way that you can get involved, but there are some other ways if you would like to kind of be a little more deeply engaged in our work. And one of those is through our committees. So I'd like to have our past president, Jenny Wolf, join us and just share a little bit about one of the committees that you work on and maybe how committees work.
Great. Thank you, Melissa, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I can't emphasize enough how much work the Florida Trust staff does. But all of the work that you see is 90%, that they do is done by 3.5 people that are full-time based in Tallahassee. And sometimes that gets to be quite a stretch. And so we are very proud to be a working organization. We rely very heavily on the committees to do a lot of our work in helping our staff do the things that make us relevant in each community. And so that's what you can do to help us along. If you can offer some time, you don't have to be a member of the board. We would love for you to be a member of our organization, but to be active on one of our many committees is something that's very, very enriching and very, very important to us. So we have maybe a dozen committees that you can choose from depending on your interests. There are 6 that I think are particularly carry a lot of the weight of what we do. And the programs committee is one of those. And that's one that I've been involved in all the years that I've been involved with the Florida Trust, because it's what I am personally most passionate about, is getting involved at the local level and bringing our organization to the community. So we do that by educational programs, as Melissa mentioned, not just with the conference, not just with the lunch and learns on a monthly basis, but now we've launched the toolkit, which is something that we can bring to a specific community and really have a one-on-one with some challenges that might be going on in that area. So that's one of the committees that I would encourage you to be a part of. It helps us be relevant. It's also wonderful if we can get more heads together because it makes us more diverse, makes us a more dynamic group in looking at very creative and active ways to get involved across the state. But there are other committees, and I'll just list a couple. There's regional councils and development, which we have mentioned. That's basically our hub in each of the 8 parts of the state that we divide up and really try to help communities feel like we can be there as a resource. And it's how we can hear directly what might be going on in a community that could be a problem for the state at large, or it could be a challenge, an opportunity for us to find a preservation solution. But there's also the awards program and the 11 to Save, and those are very tangible benefits. And while those committees tend to work what you see on just a once-a-year basis, they really do work throughout the year. We started talking already about the grants. We've done more of those with the 11 to Save program. And so that's something that's really fun to be a part of because you can help one of our 11 to Save sites with some technical advice or just helping us understand where their roadblocks are. There's also legislative affairs, which is going to be an ongoing issue. It can be challenging, but it also can be fun running around Tallahassee Capitol and meeting with our representatives and having a reception. That's all a part of what the legislative affairs does, in addition to the hard work of trying to deal with some policies that may not be as good for preservation or could be improved to help us do more. So I would encourage you to reach out to the staff if you're interested in being on a committee. Usually the requirement is meeting once a month virtually. And, you may have some homework after that meeting, but otherwise it's a very fun way to get involved and to do something that you choose is important to you. And that, I'll turn it back over.
Thank you, Jenny. That's wonderful. And just to echo her remarks, if you're interested in learning more about our committees or how you can get started, you can just drop it in the chat or you can email Natalie. She put that in the chat as well. And we are happy to facilitate people getting involved in whatever committee they're interested and passionate about. So we could do that. Some other ways you can get involved, in addition to the regional councils, which Jenny mentioned, of course, you can give even $11 for our 11 to Save grant fund helps. So any amount really helps. And keep your eye open for our year-end giving campaign this year. That is a great way that you can, and our Giving Tuesday campaign, that's a great way that you can get involved and show support for the 11 to Save Grant Fund and the organization as well. You can nominate an 11 to Save location. Those nominations are open year round. So anytime you have a historic place that's important in your community and you want to share it as a threatened resource, you can go on our website, floridatrust.org, at any time and fill out that form. And that is a great way to get involved as well. You can support our advocacy initiatives. We share our advocacy alerts on social media, but you can also sign up for our advocacy emails if you're interested in being a little more engaged in that. So please just let us know if you'd like to be a part of that. You can engage in our lunch and learns and other online events like this. Attend our next year's Preserve Florida conference. That would be a great way to get involved. And then finally, you can always follow us on social media and sign up for our monthly newsletter so you can stay engaged that way. So thank you, Jenny, for sharing that. Now that I think about it, there is a lot of ways you can get involved. So I feel good about that. I wanted to share a quick, again, this is 2025 that we'll be doing a quick financial review for. And again, this will all be in the annual report as well. So for the year, you can take a closer look here at all of the revenue and expenses that the organization incurred for 2025. And you can see that we organize our revenue and our expenses through our strategic areas of focus. We work hard so that everything we do is in those mission areas that Ennis started our conversation with today. So advocacy, connecting people throughout the state with the information they need to do the work that they need to do in their communities, educational events and opportunities and information, historic property stewardship. And those are the big things that we do. And you can see those are how we track our revenue and expenses. So it is a way for you to be able to tangibly see where our resources are going as an organization. Overall, for the year, you can see that the Florida Trust retains a strong financial foundation, which we continue to work to strengthen. And has mentioned that in his remarks earlier, and is a big focus of the board. We want to make sure that our organization is healthy and secure well into the future. And so that's a big part of the work that we do and how we shepherd our investments as stewards for the funds that are entrusted to us. It is important to us that we are an efficient, well-managed, and transparent organization. So we spend a lot of time as an organization looking at these and talking through how we budget and spend and collect funds for the organization. So with that is the official overview of the organization from an overarching perspective, but now we have some board business that Ennis is going to lead us through.
Thank you, Melissa. And so our first item of board business is to recognize the service of Joe Yates III, who has been our Regional 6 Ambassador and 11 to Save Chair. Before we recognize Joseph for his service to the Florida Trust, I do want to take a brief moment of personal privilege, because of everyone on this board and in this organization, I've actually known Joseph the longest. Our story goes back 30 years. Man, time is flying. But back to 1996, when we both arrived on the campus of Florida A&M University as freshmen in the School of Architecture program. We were young architecture students back then, beginning careers that would ultimately take us in different directions. But both of us have been rooted in this appreciation for the places that we build, preserve, leave for those who come after us. So Joseph has gone on to build an impressive career, and today he's a project manager with NASA at the Kennedy Space Center. And fortunately for the Florida Trust, he also has shared his experience, perspective, and commitment with us as a member of the Board of Trustees. So he has brought that expertise from being a project manager, but equally importantly, he has also brought thoughtfulness, professionalism, and a genuine commitment to the Trust's mission. His service has helped strengthen our organization and our dedication to protecting the places that tell Florida's story. So, Joseph, it has been a privilege to serve alongside you on this board, and even a greater privilege to call you a friend and a colleague for 3 decades. On behalf of the Florida Trust, we do want to thank Joseph for his leadership, his service, and friendship. And Joseph, while your term may be expiring on the board, you will always remain an important part of the Florida Trust family, and we're not letting you get away. Second on our item of board business today, we would like to renew another term for Patricia Davenport Jacobs. I want to see if there is a motion to accept the nomination that is brought forward for renewing Patricia's term.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. So I believe Jenny has made a motion to approve renewing Patricia Davenport Jacobs' term to the board, and Krista has seconded that motion. So I'm going to make a call for the vote, and what we'll do here is we'll call by typing in to the chat. So all those in favor say A, or type A, I guess. And those opposed, type no. So it does look like we have a unanimous list of A's, and Patricia Davenport Jacobs is elected to a second term of the Board of Trustees. So Patricia, I just want to congratulate you and thank you for your continued work and service to the Florida Trust. And then our next item on our agenda here is our this is our annual membership meeting. So it is the first time, or it is the time that we install new board members. And the Florida Trust Nominating Committee and the Florida Trust Board has recommended one new member this year, Monica Drake out of St. Petersburg. And so do we have a motion to accept this nomination?
So moved.
And do we have a second?
Second.
All right. So I believe the motion was made by Jenny to approve. The second, was that Krista again, or was that Laura?
Yes, that was me.
Okay. All right.
Maybe Laura too.
Okay. And so we have a motion to approve by Jenny and that seconded by Krista. So all those in favor, just type A into the chat. And anyone opposed, just type no. And so it does look like we have unanimous approval. So on behalf of the Board of Trustees, it is my pleasure to present Monica Drake of St. Petersburg for nomination to the Board of Trustees of the Florida Trust for Historic Preservation. So thank you and welcome, Monica. And before we continue, I would like to take a brief moment to recognize and thank the donors, sponsors, partners, and supporters of the Florida Trust Historic Preservation. The work of the Florida Trust is truly a statewide effort, from being advocates and to education of preservation programs in our annual conference, as well as the recognition and celebration of our state's historic places. So much of what we accomplish is made possible through your generosity and your commitment. Your support is much more than a financial contribution. It is an investment in Florida's history, its communities, and the places and stories that give our state its unique identity. So whether you are a longtime supporter or have joined the Florida Trust family more recently, please know that your partnership makes a meaningful difference. So on behalf of our Board of Trustees, staff, state and statewide membership, thank you for believing in our mission, investing in historic preservation, and helping us protect places that matter throughout the state. So please join me in just recognizing and thanking all of our donors and sponsors for their tremendous support. And now, I'm looking at the time here. So as we bring our annual meeting to a close, I want to leave everyone with a big final message. And that is the strength of the Florida Trust comes from people like you who choose to get involved. There are many ways to be a part of this work, as Jenny and Melissa have mentioned. You can join the Florida Trust as a member or make a donation to support preservation efforts across our state. You can become more directly involved by serving on the board of trustees or even becoming a preservation partner. You can also help us identify and celebrate places that matter, nominate a threatened historic resource for our 11 to Save program, or nominate an outstanding preservation project, organization, or individual for a Florida Preservation Award. And more importantly, you can lend your voice to our legislative advocacy, helping ensure that historic preservation remains a priority in communities and in Tallahassee. So however you choose to participate, there is a place for you in the Florida Trust. So please visit floridatrust.org to learn more, stay connected, and to get involved. Next, I just want to remind everyone of a few events that will be coming up over the next few months. We have our New Orleans Holiday Heritage Tour. That's going to be December the 9th through the 14th. We have our next Preserve Florida Conference coming up, which will be May 20th and 21st in 2027. And then Sicily, it's making me hungry. I'm thinking about pizza. But Sicily, a cultural odyssey, that is another big event that's going to be coming up next year on September 17th through the 26th, 2027. So make sure you have that in your calendars. And then also we have a few lunch and learns that will be coming up over the next few months. Our next lunch and learn is going to be September the 22nd, and it'll be a conversation about historic building research by Melissa Wiley and Jennifer Wolf. On October 29th, we'll have lunch and learn, which will be hosted by Adrian Burke with Sarah Miller and Glenda Simmons Jenkins. And the topic will be a conversation about the work to save Gullah Geechee burial grounds in Nassau County. Sarah Miller and Glenda Simmons Jenkins have been doing a great job up in that area. And then last but not least, on November the 12th, we will have another lunch and learn. And it will be focused on connecting with the Native American Indigenous Studies Center. All right, I see something in Jenny's comments about tomorrow with Scott. So, it is.
Yes, there is a lunch and
learn is actually
learn
on
tomorrow.
September
Yes,
the 27th, not the 22nd. And then before we say goodbye, we do have one more exciting announcement to share. Next year, we will be heading to Orlando, speaking of Scott, the 2027 Preserve Florida Conference will bring us together in the heart of Central Florida, a region where there are historic neighborhoods, cultural landmarks, remarkable architecture, and rapid growth create important opportunities and challenges for preservation. So we look forward to exploring Orlando's history, learning from preservation successes across the state of Florida, reconnecting with colleagues and friends, and continuing conversations that will strengthen our state's preservation community. So there is much more to come. So stay tuned for dates, programming tours, and registration information. We can't wait to welcome you to Orlando for our 2027 Preserve Florida Conference. So see you there. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you for supporting historic preservation, and thank you for helping us preserve the places that tell Florida's story. Have a good day and good week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.